dry. Good job by the rain cap. So here you can see I covered up my IBC totes two different ways. This one, I just cut a section about that big off the top. That's my rain cap. And I've gone through the eyelets here and tied it onto the frame of the tote. And you can see that is held up really well. It's sturdy. It doesn't go quite the whole way to the outside edge, but it's kept this wood nice and dry. The IBC tote still lets it dry out, lets the air get clear through it, so that's some good firewood. This one I did a little bit differently. You can see I notched out for these support bars that go across in there. And the problem that I've seen with that now is when the snow lays on top of it or the sun beats down on it, these edges are actually folding down in. You can see this one got so bad it actually folded down, and I've got this piece stuck on the edge here. I'll pull that out because with that notch cut out in it, with the snow on it and then the sunshine hitting it, it bends down. Now we've got much more of this edge of wood exposed to the rain and the elements. So if you're going to cover them with what I call the rain cap, not a trademark term, you're welcome to use it. The rain cap on the IBC tote, I recommend doing it like I did this one. Leave a little bit more sidewall on here to support the weight. It also allows you to, if you look up in here, I've got the wood stacked up right up against it. So that allows you to shove the wood up even higher in the tote over top of that support beam. You can see I've got wood clear back there. Hi, and welcome back to Purple Collar Life. We're out at what I call the new wood pile today, and the question is to cover or not to cover. So when it comes to firewooding, I've been doing this a long time, and I've read all the debates both ways, and I've actually done it both ways. You can see this is an IBC tote full of cherry that has been uncovered for over a year. Now we can see there is some bleaching here on the top of the wood. But we can also see with the recent rains and snows, it's wet. If you take a good look here at the front, all of this is wet. In this tote, also cherry, you can see I have it covered. So I made a rain cap out of the bladder of the tote. And this wood, if I pull it out, you can see this wood is dry. It's seasoned. It could go into the fireplace. So some people might be asking then, why would we just not leave it covered all the time? And that is my question to you guys. So this firewood has been uncovered since we started stacking it a few months ago. This is all oak We've got some maple in here. There's some more oak down at the end. This is red oak. And it's been, like I said, uncovered, but I brought the tractor and the big tool rack up here with some tarps. And my question is, should I cover it up? And what's the best way to cover it up? So the best firewood that I've ever bought, and remember we bought firewood a couple years ago because we ran out during the pandemic. The best firewood I ever bought was covered with clear plastic. It was not down over the sides, it was just on the top. So the sunlight would still get in, but it was covered from the rain and snow. And that was some of the best wood I've ever seen that had been stored for a number of years. I've also seen people who have nice level rows of cords of firewood like this that use the metal pieces, like pieces of tin on top, with some firewood just to hold it down. That seems to work really well too. The problem is right now metal is super expensive. I used to be able to find like the in-between pieces of metal. So if you go to a place that makes metal roofing or siding, a lot of times there's like a divider or a spacer piece they use that's usually just plain white. You used to be able to get those pretty cheap. I actually used them to build a shed when I first was building the house, long before the house was here. I used those spacer or divider pieces of metal to make a white shed. But now those are getting harder and harder to find, and they're expensive. So I think I'll probably not do metal. I would like to do clear. I don't have any clear poly at this time. So I think for now, for at least the rest of this winter, I'm just going to use the camo tarp. But my question to you guys that don't cover your wood at all is, what's the disadvantage of covering? Now, obviously, if I put this tarp over the top and all the way down the sides, it's going to keep the airflow from getting there. This wood will take even longer to season out. This is oak, so it's going to take quite a while to season, probably a year, maybe 2 years, depending on how much sunlight and airflow we get here in this section of the woods. So my plan is to fold the tarp in half and just cover the top. So we're going to do our best to do that. So I'd like for you guys to leave those comments down below. What system do you use to cover your firewood? What do you find works best? And I think what I'm going to plan on is this summer saving up and maybe building like a wood shed. So it'd be almost like an open pavilion. So we've got canopy of cover over top, but still airflow and sunshine getting to the front and the sides of the stacks of wood. I need to get approval from both the finance committee and the planning committee of the house to make that woodshed a reality. So I think if I just put my tarp folded in half up on top, use a piece of wood at each end to hold it down. Got some of these smaller pieces that were weird end cuts. I think those will work good to hold things together. Put a couple of them up on top. Now, I am the world's worst wood stacker, and I can already see that I'm going to have some areas where the water may puddle up. I think these pieces that still have the bark on them may be the best for on top. But we'll do like that for now. If you're new to the channel, we'd appreciate if you check out some of our other videos. Purple Collar Life as a channel is about our rural living adventure here in Northwest Pennsylvania, and our combination of primarily white collar day jobs and our kind of blue-collar rural living lifestyle. We heat our home primarily with firewood in a wood stove in the basement. So that's why we enjoy cutting, splitting, and stacking firewood. Well, the cutting and splitting I enjoy the most, the stacking not quite as much, but it's a necessary part of the process. That's one of the reasons I like the IBC totes. They make stacking much easier. But Jennifer prefers nicely stacked stacks of wood in areas that she can see from the house. So even though I am the world's worst stacker of firewood, this is her preference in this area looking up through the woods. All right, that should be pretty good. So this is absolutely the way I wanted the firewood covered. Just like the best methods that I've seen is to cover the top, but not the fronts and sides, because that lets the air go through and season the wood faster. It also lets the sunshine in the morning. The sunshine comes up from behind the camera, so the sun will hit all this in the morning until about lunchtime. And then from lunchtime through the evening, the sun hits the other side of the fire stack, at least the sun that can get through these trees. A little bit more sunshine here in Northwest Pennsylvania in the winter time when there's not all the tree cover. So the trees have lost their leaves and the sun can get through here a little bit more easily in the winter than in the summer. So I look forward to reading down through your comments and your thoughts on whether firewood should or should not be covered. Like I said, I've done it both ways, and typically how I like to do it is I don't worry about covering it up the first little bit after I've cut it. I know that it's going to take a while to season anyway, so if it sits out for half a year not covered up, I don't think that's a big deal. But then once I see it starting to season, I do like to get it covered up so that it's not surface water on top of the wood that's dried from the inside out. So that allows me to throw that wood in the fire. Now, that IBC tote of cherry that's all wet, I need to get that covered up because that wood is fully seasoned, and that wood that's on it now is surface moisture that doesn't need to be there. The other wood that's covered up, and the two different types of IBC covers I've had, I mentioned earlier in the video. Now that I've learned more about using the rain caps, I like the thicker version better. It keeps those more rigid and solid up on top of the wood. And I know a lot of people prefer the TPs, so if you cut the bladder diagonally, it actually provides a little bit of an overhang on both sides that protects it a little bit better. As always, we'd appreciate if you give us a thumbs up if you found the video informing or entertaining. Now I'm going to get the tractor back down this muddy roadway and out of the woods. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again the next time. Try to not go on the same muddy tracks. I don't know if that makes it worse or better. Now we're going to have two muddy tracks rather than just one.